This History Channel has some pretty good shows on it. They're often informative, entertaining, and fulfill some kind of vital need in our lives. But the show Ancient Aliens is utterly worthless and good for little more than misinformation. What do I mean by that? Well, have you ever seen an episode? The creators of the show assume the viewer is so out of the loop when it comes to history that they'll believe anything. And sadly, we do. But don't worry, my lovelies, I'm here to set you straight. Trust me, I'm a professional. Sometimes. So let's begin. I think I'll start with one of the most difficult subjects Ancient Aliens has tackled. Gobekli Tepe. Now here's a spoiler alert. Although I've done a lot of research on the topic, at least twice as much as the History Channel, no one has a complete answer for this site at the moment. However, I can provide a better answer than
the giant flying turtles.
You see, the people of this time are a nomadic hunter-gatherer. Take two. You see, the people of this time are nomadic hunter-gatherer types. They weren't known to band together and organize themselves. But they did. Here at Gobekli. But why? Well, the man who's been excavating the site for over 10 years has a couple ideas. Klaus Schmidt has said this about the site. Now what he means by this is that this site is a place of mass worship. What did these ancient people worship?
Extraterrestrials who were misinterpreted as being these divine creatures by our ancestors.
No, stupid, they worshiped their ancestors. They didn't have gods per se. Remember, this was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Nah, I'm just kidding. But Gobekli Tepe dates to 9000 BCE. 5,000 years before, like roughly 5,000 years before the Christian Bible. In these days, the people worship the spirits of their ancestors who had become one with the Force. Long story short, Gobekli Tepe is a cult for the dead.
And while y'all rolling doobies, I be in my bedroom scoring movies.
Now after that, I'm gonna tell you this story. Now, there are theories that ancient advanced civilization once lived on the planet, but have since been wiped out through cataclysm. Just look at our first civilization, Sumer. They wrote, and often, about a prior civilization that was much more advanced than they were. They wrote it down on all those cuneiform tablets. Granted, they weren't known for their historical accuracy, but they were obsessed with a past civilization. And they even wrote about their being washed away by a great flood. And the story shares striking similarities to the flood story in the Bible, which would have been written a few thousand years after. The first person to write about the lost city of Atlantis was Plato, the philosopher and scientist we all love and respect. One theory is that this site belongs to an advanced, ancient civilization. No, not aliens! But I'm gonna stick to the first advanced modern humans theory. Okay, let's break it down. I said earlier that this is a cult of the dead. Let me explain. Gobekli has many depictions of strange animals. Amongst them is one in particular that tells us something. It's a vulture. People in this region will cut off the heads of their deceased loved ones and leave the body out for the vultures. It's pretty brutal. They were the first metal civilization. See, they believed it gave the dead some kind of a sky burial. The dead would be carried to the heavens through the belly of this vulture. Sure, why not? The family in mourning would then take the decapitated head and make the pilgrimage down to Gobekli Tepe. And there they will be welcomed by the priests of the cult. And they would ceremoniously bury the head behind one of those T-shaped pillars, which explains why
the site was carefully placed underneath sand.
On Ancient Aliens, they make a big deal about these T-shaped pillars. I mean, they have armor on them and funny looking animals. What is that? Right. Let me remind of another previous point I've made. These people were nomadic, meaning everyone that came to the temple was a pilgrim, except for the dedicated priest of the cult. Klaus Schmidt, remember that guy who's been studying it? This site, Gobekli Tepe, he's been studying this stuff for over 10 years. He believes the pillars are anthropomorphized people, more specifically, priests, praying for the pilgrim's safe passage, and the animals, well, they're totems to ward off evil spirits. If you look closely at the animal reliefs, they're all predatory and non-indigenous to the region. There are no lions in Turkey. There are turkeys and lions. So we have a group of pilgrims who are hunter-gatherers coming from a lot of different places to worship the spirits of their dead ancestors. All of a sudden, people must work together in order to survive, which leads me to my next point. Many experts believe the region Gobekli Tepe rests in is the place where man first domesticated grain. The wheat at Gobekli wasn't for human consumption. It's the precursor to the cheap stuff we give cattle today. They were growing the crops to raise the animals that would later go to their own dinners. That's right, we have signs of an organized civilization existing thousands of years before our first record of civilization. So who's right? Me? Or this guy?
Flesh and blood extraterrestrials.
The History Channel's Ancient Aliens is pretty much entirely formed by the ideas of Eric von Daniken and Zachariah Sitchin. In the 60s, at the height of the New Age wave, these quacks came out of the woodwork and challenged a subject not many people knew about. When they made these claims of ancient aliens, the hippie generation and liberals that wanted to seem progressive, well, they ate this stuff up. But it's 2013. You owe it to yourself to learn about this stuff. Some of it is actually half interesting. So remember, my friends, happy trails to you until we meet again. Some trails are happy ones, others are blue. It's the way you ride the trail that counts. Here's a happy one for you.
Oh, fuck!
Shit. Okay.
You remind me of my Beamer. A lot of trunk space, the perfect two-seater. You got a lot of driving, trying to keep up, but it's not a lot of miles on your meter. You remind me of my Beamer. See your ignition, baby girl, I'm trying to key up. And your headlights are off, I'm trying to see 'em, but it's not a lot of miles.